Hello, everyone. Greg Ladky along with Tim Hyde, blueandgold.com. It's time for our post-game show. Notre Dame victorious over the Navy midshipmen, 34-6. Coach Tim, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it was a really boring football game. Thank God for Kyron Williams and how much fun he's watched. But then I got really excited at the end because we saw some new faces, particularly on defense.
Yes, definitely. I mean, this is what we talked about in our closing thoughts yesterday here on our video was the energy, the games, the 5 straight weeks of the high energy games that they've had. 3 straight night games with Enter Sandman and Vodtech, back-to-back home games with the recruiting and the night game, the pageantry, the lights, you name it, they've done it here at Notre Dame. And yeah, there was going to be a letdown. And it showed. Offense was sloppy as could be. Defense dominated all game long. All game long, they were outstanding. But yeah, it was a low energy game. You could tell. I think we expected some of that, but still came away with a nice big score. And it's one of those games you're like, big win. Wish it was 52 on the board, but it's just the way the type of game flowed.
To all of our viewers, please hit like on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you subscribe, you can immediately partake in the chat and ask us questions during this live show. Tim, specifically on Prince Kollie, he's going to be a big topic because I know a lot of Notre Dame fans were so excited to get a chance to see him play. I'm not sure how many snaps he had, probably somewhere between 10 and 15, but what was your takeaway from watching him?
Oh, excitement. The guy could run. Boom, instant. I mean, you saw 32 out there. He didn't make a tackle, but you just see the number flying by. Right. The guy's electric. He got eaten up on one play, but that's when they were in a straight 3-man front and the guard just came straight onto him. But that's going to happen when you're a true freshman still learning the scheme and whatnot. But he could run. That's the one thing I noticed right away was his speed and just glancing towards him in the future of the athleticism that he's going to bring. Not only Prince Kollie, but obviously the other linebackers they're going to be coming to Notre Dame here over the next 9 months as they get here next year is going to be exciting. But it was great to see him. It's great to see Xavier Watts. There's another outstanding athlete on the perimeter. He just looked electric as could be and popped off on the field on the film. Really, really athletic. Kind of reminds me of when Colsey and Styles get the ball on offense. Just those young guys just popping off the film and hey, let's get these guys out there even more.
Big news from and to your point about Xavier Watts. I mean, it's just nice to see of safety fly to the football like aggressively. I think some people will criticize more so Houston Griffith, but maybe also D.G. Brown as well as being kind of like catcher tacklers. You know what I mean? Where they wait a little bit.
It's an athlete. I mean, Xavier Watts, Coach Kelly's kind of talked about it, how they've tried working him in. They kept saying he's close. And we all know, Coach Kelly historically is like really, really hesitant to play some guys at times. Not that he doesn't, obviously, but still, he really popped out there, really looked outstanding. And the same thing with Prince Kollie. It's been brought up sometimes on the board and in the after game chats. Where's Prince Kollie? Why can't we just pop him in the A gap like Drew White does half the time on his blitzes? I agree. From what you saw with him tonight, that he 32 needs to be on the field, 12, 15, 18 snaps just to give Bertrand and White a little blow.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of upgrade and take the whole defensive backfield, the whole back, the linebacker and defensive back groups together to the next level. I think those guys look like two dudes that could potentially do it. Dave, you brought us right into our next topic, and I think that this is maybe the biggest news coming out of this game is we don't know how severe his injury is. I mean, we just heard what the NBC telecast said, which was it sounded like it might be a significant injury. But, Tim, where does Notre Dame go from here if Avery Davis is not available?
Yeah, what really stinks is it was non-contact. He was just getting around on the Williams run and just looked like his leg got caught. The announcer said his knees packed in ice, which is usually not a good sign. Historically that means some swelling and whatnot, or they're trying to just limit it ASAP. But no, I mean, hey, Avery Davis is a team captain. He's been a go-to guy at times. Has made some clutch catches for Notre Dame this year. what's a bigger catch than the one at Clemson, last year in the
Right.
big game, the night game when they upset Clemson last year, the big pass that got him down there. But great football player, great leader. Yeah, if he's out, yeah, obviously next man in. The problem is next man in. There's only a couple guys. So
Yeah.
does that mean Notre Dame does more 12 personnel? Or is it, do they make Mayer a full-time slot, so to speak? So
Right.
a lot of things are going to come out of that.
Yeah, yeah, 5 scholarship receivers left. We have not seen Jaden Thomas yet this year. He's one of the 3 true freshmen that came in last year's class. Does he enter the lineup? Does Chris Salerno take on more of a role in the regular offense? It's definitely getting tight there. I thought Avery Davis had that catch and run where he had that kind of awkward somersault over the tackler. It was either the play before his injury or a couple plays before, because you mentioned, Tim, it was a non-contact injury. I just wonder in that it was a high effort play by him to get the yardage he got. I wonder if he hurt his knee on that play. So who knows?
Yeah,
We
that
don't
was the
have
first
word
down catch. Yeah, exactly. That was the first down catch. Probably 2 plays, if I remember, 2 plays before before he got hurt. But great point on Salerno. He had a nice little kickoff return out there. Obviously, he's been in the rotation. He's obviously a walk on, but he's a guy that Coach Kelly and them trust. He's got kind of like that Chris Fink walk on guy that they trust. They're going to get him on the field. So, is he a go-to guy? No, but he's probably a body they could get out there at some slot. More importantly, it's just, you're going to see Styles and you're going to see Colsey. Colsey had a, unbelievable catch today. You're going to just see those 2 freshmen just playing more reps.
Yep. Yeah, Colsey had the 31-yarder earlier, and then Lorenzo
Yep.
later in the game. Notre Dame, let's talk about their defense, Coach Hyde. Navy came into the game averaging 222 yards rushing. It's actually pretty low by Navy standards, but it's still 14th in the nation overall coming into the game. Notre Dame limits them to 166 yards and 184 yards of total offense. You and I were talking earlier in the game, like, oh my God, because Notre Dame's wasting this awesome defensive performance and is kind of looking like crud. But throughout the game, that defense was pretty good.
Oh, without a doubt. And you got 166 yards. 50 of them are on 2 plays, which is the reverse. And the one play where Botello's in the backfield for a tackle for loss. And they kind of it just looked like everyone paused for a second. And they got the pitch out. And it was kind of a broken play where Navy got the outside pitch for 18 yards. Outside of that, they're outstanding. All game long, the story of the game was the interior defense, the way they just dominated up front. And early in the game, it was one of those things like, are you going to waste this performance? Meaning Notre Dame's defense showed up. They're dominating the football game. They're giving Notre Dame possessions. They had 6 possessions in that, classic game they lost a few years ago where they only had 6 in the entire game, I believe. Yeah. So they had 6 in the first half. So, and they just didn't take advantage of those. But, hey, game ball, whoever's going to get the game ball tonight,
how about
it's got to go to the 3 nose guards. Not only him, Jacob Lacey was a stud. Cross was a stud. Lacey was it had Lacey with only 1 TFL I see right there. I counted him for 2, so they must have scraped it to someone else. But the three interior guys dominated this football game today.
Yeah, Kurt Heinisch. He'll be my guest for the game ball. They're probably getting pretty close to presenting that inside the locker room, but he has 10 total tackles. That's a bizarre number for a defensive tackle. 8 solo, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. His second last home game in a Notre Dame uniform. I think he is the all-time Notre Dame career leader in games played, if I'm not mistaken. It was just an awesome performance by him.
Oh, he was electric. Yeah. Seriously. Can you say a nose guard just getting off the ball? They had a couple camera shots where the camera just on his face, and he was just dialed in. He was just ready to go. Had that, eye of the tiger, that old cliche, and was just, he was a man amongst boys out there. But it goes back to what, we talked about yesterday, and this goes into watching some of the past Marcus Freeman film where the first thing I know I talked about yesterday was the aggressiveness that he played with at Cincinnati. And it wasn't blitzing and things of that nature. It was just the penetrating, the attacking, the D-line just getting upfield, causing havoc. And you really saw that today with Notre Dame's defensive front.
You look at some of these other Notre Dame players on the defensive statistics. You see some of these young guys creeping up here, and some of this is aided by special teams tackles. But Kahanu Kia with 4 total tackles, 3 solo. You can see Xavier Watts here with his 3 tackles. Prince Colley had 3 tackles. So you mentioned, Tim, before we went on, it's going to be one of those games where we get a better feel after watching it again. We think more about what the really big positives are. Maybe tomorrow, Sunday, some things come to our mind, and that might be one of the biggest takeaways. We kind of mentioned at the top of the show here, but it was really nice to see some of the younger players starting to put together some stats.
Oh, without a doubt. Even 44 was out there. You saw him flying around. You just glance, you're like, 44, you got to get out the roster. You're like, Kia, another guy that Coach Kelly's mentioned during his press conferences about freshmen that are just about ready to take that next step. And that goes back to offense. We've seen so many freshmen play on offense. Haven't seen the freshmen on D until today, but it goes back to Coach Kelly's been talking about these guys the last 4 or 5, 6 weeks, sprinkling them in a little bit. And they look like some dudes that are ready to play some good football and definitely be 2022 guys.
Make sure you hit like on this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That helps so much with our video productions, and also allows you to take part in the chat here and ask Coach Hyde some questions. Coach, what did you think at the beginning of the game? I think one of the biggest news items was Jack Kaiser listed at safety, and I think he played there pretty much the whole game. They were changing some things up, but just what do you think about that approach starting it off?
Well, it was their 4-4. I mean, in watching, it goes back to the Wisconsin game that they did earlier this year where, they only had 3 DBs. I mean, Cam Hart's been their best corner all season long, and he's not even starting today. So they just were going to go with the 3 DBs, and he was the next man in to play that out. It's basically that outside backer, obviously the rover spot, but that outside backer, do some good fits, really good defense when they ran, the 5-2, when you had Botello and Foskey on the edges and the big 3 inside, good looking defense. And they were changing up. There were some audibles during the game where Navy was checking audibles. The entire Notre Dame defense switched. And Kaiser was out there making some of the calls. There was a few plays in particular. You see 24 just barking out calls. And that was pretty impressive to see, backup outside linebacker being the main strong safety and the signal caller out there today. So that was really great for Kaiser out there to do that.
Tim, we do have a final at Purdue. Purdue has beaten Michigan State 40-29. Let's touch upon that as we let some more questions come through. But it's just funny that the first round of playoff rankings come out, and you either think it's the end of the world, or there's a lot of hope, and there's just still a lot of football to play. You already have Michigan State losing, Wake Forest losing. What were your thoughts on everything that unfolded today?
Hey, it's madness, right? It's madness. There's only been one time, which happened to be last year's. I think I saw on Twitter where someone was talking about the original post, the first rankings, where it's only happened one time where the top 4 that came out was the top 4. So there's always going to be change. There's just so many football games. And then you got the little brother versus big brother game last week in, Michigan State, 2 guys that hate each other. Purdue's licking their chops, hanging out, just waiting for that. And the spoiler makers, the game was in West Lafayette. And I'm laughing because it's just, the history of Purdue, right? How many times they do this to the era in the 60s, the late 60s. It's like, and they've done it. They did it to Ohio State a couple of years ago, kept them out because of that game when they annihilated Urban Meyer and the Buckeyes at the night game there. And hey, it's college football, right? You got to bring it. And that's what's frustrating about this game today, where you just want to come and you just want to steamroll them and blow Navy out, because it's not a good Navy team,
right?
And get them out of the way, but they didn't. But they just kept going. And over the course of 60 minutes, Notre Dame was just was just a dominant program, and it showed today. So at the end of the day, you got to win, especially these last 4 games, right? Once you hit November, which we're in, it's all about winning. So,
Yep.
and more importantly, obviously, a couple teams right below Notre Dame that losing or behind right now that are going to knock themselves out of there as well. So,
Right.
does Michigan State? How far do they drop? That's going to be
Yeah.
the most interesting thing.
Yeah, because they do
But they're
have
definitely
they have a
yes.
good win. I mean, the committee's not going to forget about the fact that they beat Michigan. So,
True, but it's at home. Even though they did come back, it is at home. We'll see how Michigan finishes out, but I bet you Michigan State drops all the way down to 7, 8.
mhm.
And they still got the Buckeyes, and the Buckeyes were not impressive at all. I watched a little bit of that Nebraska
No.
game. So
Yeah, and but speaking of not impressive, Notre Dame's future opponents, not impressive at all. The Stanford looked terrible last night.
yeah,
Georgia Tech hasn't been impressive all season, so it's looking like very clearly Virginia is the best opponent Notre Dame has left. Steve H. asks, and this will lead us because I think we're going to talk some quarterbacks now, especially Jack Cohn. He asks, Buckner is definitely the future. I think we agree. Is there any chance he isn't the starter next year? Tim, what do you think?
wow. He should be the starter.
Yeah, I think
I
he should be
mean,
a starter.
in today's game, even in today's game, I was a little. There was the first. I texted you at halftime. I was going over notes at halftime. Notre Dame had the ball 6 times.
Yeah,
Jack Cohn had 5 drives, 10 points. Buckner 1 drive, 7 points, and the Buckner drive was outstanding. A flow.
yeah.
Obviously, the pass down there was great. The run game is just a little bit different when he's in there, and the
Mhm.
flow of it and the energy, so to speak. So Cohn was off. Cohn looked like Cohn looked like he did against Purdue or whatnot. A little, flustered. I think a little of that was scheme. I think Navy did an awesome job dropping 8 and just frustrating the heck out of Cohn, Tommy Reese, I'm sure, and all those guys. But hey, Buckner's good. Even at the end, he did come in on the second down. But I right here on my notes, I'm like, why isn't Buckner in? You've already won the game. It's 1st and goal. Insert him on 1st down and let him finish this drive
Yeah.
with the Buckner package. And he came in obviously on 2nd down and did it. Frustrated for Buckner on one of the plays where he comes in for one play and he just hands off. It's like you just hand off. There's no zone read, no nothing of that thing. There was an inside read where Buckner, I thought, it was like tailor made. You draw it on a chalkboard. The DN crashes if Buckner just keeps it. He probably saw the looping linebacker that was overhanging on him. He probably anticipated him there, but if Buckner keeps it, he may have a walk-in touchdown. But yeah, I thought he was going to play a little bit more today. I was
Mhm.
interested how much Jack Cohn did play.
Tyler Buckner on that touchdown drive too, on that 3rd down conversion where he was able to kind of juke and outrun Diego Fagot, who's Navy's middle linebacker, and I know Notre Dame fans aren't very happy with him right now. He was kind of twisting Kyron Williams' ankle on that play, that Jared Patterson personal foul play. Good for Jared Patterson because I thought that Fagot was playing a little dirty there. But back to my point, Tyler Buckner jukes him, gets the 3rd down conversion. I mean, he does that in the face of Navy's best player, and that kid Fagot is a legit Division 1A linebacker. So that was just a super impressive drive. It's funny, Jack Cohn, like
He could run.
and a lot of our users were saying this. It didn't feel like you said, it looked like he was a little off, not reading defenses really quickly, but his numbers are outstanding. 23 of 29 for 269 yards and 1 touchdown. I'm taking that any day of the week if I'm Notre Dame.
Exactly, but that's the frustrating part again. That it just felt like some of the shots they did miss on. Obviously he throws a 70-yard touchdown pass, right before halftime, which was great to see there to Austin. It's always those ones he doesn't get, and
Yeah.
he really stares at his guys sometimes. There's one corner blitz. It on the 4th down. It's so obvious they're blitzing. Navy checks late. They drop down. Notre Dame's in empty. So you see that there are 5 guys matched up. The outside backer, the Cohn's right, is on the edge. It's like, do you not see that guy's going to come? And they're trying to do a pump and go on the outside. So, or exactly a screen to Williams, where if he does throw it, it's a walk-in touchdown for Williams. yeah, he's 23 for 29, but man, he really held that ball a couple times today. Again, it just felt like, especially on some of the sacks.
Yeah, you would have thought they would have pressed the ball downfield more, just because they've got
Yeah,
better athletes at wide receiver on the outside. So that was kind of the disappointment. We didn't get a chance to see Tyler Buckner really fire one down the field at all. A good red zone pass to Kevin Austin, but nothing where he really
yeah, great snap.
let it go. Let's visit a couple more game comparison stats. I mean, Notre Dame outgained Navy more than 2-1, 430 yards to 184. A couple other things that stick out to me about the stats. Sack adjusted yards per rush for Notre Dame 5.8. That's their best of the year. Navy only at 3.4, and with the sacks just 3 yards per rush. And Navy has to get into third down and like 3 or less, third down and 4. And again, we talked about earlier how well the defensive tackles. But I thought Navy, Tim, you and I were also saying, I'm surprised they didn't go to the outside more earlier on. Like, I mean, they was just like banging their head against the wall. It was clear that Notre Dame's defensive tackles weren't going to let them have a field day.
I agree. I mean, at halftime, I told you at halftime, my halftime adjustments for the first thing was get the ball in the perimeter. This is what Navy does. They make some adjustments. They came out, started doing tackle over unbalanced, got the ball in the perimeter some, obviously, and pitch. And they were hitting Notre Dame for pitches on that, 13, 14 play drive. Chewed up nearly 10 minutes of the clock. So, yeah, because that's where we felt Notre Dame was the weakest, was on the perimeter, and really surprised they didn't attack that perimeter a little bit more throughout the game. But hey, Notre Dame's defense, real quick on the run game, that was one of my keys to the game, was just run game efficiency, meaning run plays that hit 4 yards or more is a positive.
Yep.
If it's 3rd and 2 and you get 2 yards for a first down, that's a positive for the offense. Notre Dame dominated this football game. 31% run efficiency for Navy. 31%.
Yeah.
Great football is 55 plus, where you're moving the chains and things of that nature. And the most fascinating stat of the night was 5 drives tonight. 5 drives for Navy didn't have one positive rush, meaning a 4 yards or more. Just outstanding defense. Really, really good defense. Foskey played good. Botello, there's another young guy who's just super athletic, making some plays on the perimeter out there when he was playing outside backer as well. So, just great overall. Coach Freeman just coached his tail off today on defense.
Yeah, Botello added a sack. It's exciting to see him play. He definitely brings a level of intensity to the field that
just real quick. I mean, just his he is so athletic.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I mean, when he gets going, obviously last year he was the smash man on kickoff and things that he's got no fear in this world. He's relentless, and he could run. Notre Dame's got some dudes, some young guys that have just been the backup type guys, special teams type guys, where, man, when it's their time to shine, I mean, there's some dudes on this defense that are going to be outstanding.
Yeah, Coach Kelly has referenced it a couple of times in the last few weeks during his pressers. Like, he's really excited about the younger half of the roster. For the freshmen, sophomores, they're on the team right now. We got a chance to see more of them today than I think we've seen all year. Let's talk a little bit about Kevin Austin. Now, he finishes with 6 receptions for 139 yards. Obviously, a big day. At the half, he had, I think, 4 catches. In fact, I know 4 catches for 124 yards. There's a bit of a coincidence there. He was on pace to get like 250 yards receiving, right? So the last Notre Dame receiver to go over 200 yards in a game was Golden Tate back in 2009 against Stanford. And Golden Tate is sitting there on television as part of the NBC crew for the first time. So I was kind of hoping that Kevin Austin would exceed the 200-yard mark and do something to match Golden Tate's premier performance on NBC.
Well, you want to talk about Golden Tate for a second? It's the Washington game. Remember that Washington game in 2009?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, oh my Lord, when he's just running the ball, catching the ball, just everything. That's the one. I mean, when I think of Golden Tate, I remember that Washington game. Sarkisian brought that team into South Bend, and it was just a shootout that game. But yeah, Golden Tate could fly. He was a fun one to watch.
Yeah, in fact, I saw him one of the very first high school games I shot for Rivals.com back in 2005 was one of Golden Tate's games at Pope John Paul, north of Nashville. So, and he took, I mean, he was awesome. I think he took a kickback in that game and had two touchdown runs that were longer than about 60 yards. So,
Baseball player too, another
yeah.
two-sport star at Notre Dame.
Yeah, yeah. Good topic here, D-Rock Irish, and I agree with you. He says ND's wins over Purdue, Wisconsin, and UNC look pretty good right now. They certainly look better after today.
Yeah, I saw Wisconsin played Rutgers and just took care of them. Obviously, I mean, I watched a lot of the UNC game. I mean, that was like watching arena football. But those two quarterbacks, Hartman and Howell, those two guys are electric. I mean, those are some really good quarterbacks. And obviously, we talked about Purdue. But real quick, Purdue, I mean, that early part of the season, I know Notre Dame struggled. The offensive line trying to figure out, who the heck can take a snap and play early in the season and trying to find that right mixture of five. But also those defenses they played. When you look at defense efficiency and the total defense and all the metrics and all that, every one of those defenses are top 20 in the country.
Yeah.
Obviously Wisconsin's the best. Toledo, Purdue is outstanding on D with their front. So really good wins, no doubt about that, and a huge win for UNC. I was really happy to watch the UNC game and see them pull that upset, just because obviously the energy they played with Notre Dame last week to come back, play an early start game and came back. I think they were down by 17. Mm-hmm. I kept going back and forth. So, hey, Hal's good. He's a good quarterback.
So is Sam Hartman. But the broadcasters in that game, they jinxed him because they started talking about, well, why isn't he part of the Heisman conversation? And then he goes and throws 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
Just like, I liked him out of high school. He was I think he was the MVP of the Shrine Bowl of the Carolinas, which is the North Carolina South Carolina All-Star game. He looked really good that week, and it wasn't really a big name recruit, but not surprising to me that he's doing really well. Let's go into talking about the offensive line. We always touch more upon that. I know you just referenced it a little bit, Coach Hyde, but they were looking shaky, I thought, at times today, particularly early. Notre Dame scores just 3 points in the first 4 drives.
Yeah, but O-line, it's hard to do 15 minutes after the game.
Yeah,
but O-line is all about going back, watching, fine-tooth comb, hitting the pause button and doing the grades, which I love to do on Sundays with the offensive line. But yeah, I mean, they're going to get a lot of the blame early on, but it was more of the pass game. It was more of the incompletes. Cone threw the ball away a handful of times because they were dropping 8. He had nowhere to go, of that nature. Yeah, but great point. 3 points on the first 4 drives. Yes, wasted opportunities early to blow this thing out and even play more young guys in the fourth quarter. I mean, we should have seen everybody in the fourth quarter coming off of sidelines and whatnot. That's what was frustrating early on, where you're wasting Coach Freeman and this defense and this D-line they're just dominating the football game, and it was wasted opportunities, I felt.
Yeah, now they're asking young kids now. I mean, Joe Alt, true freshman at left tackle, to ask for consistency is probably a tall order. And Notre Dame was fortunate. I mean, this was not a very good Navy team. They don't have a quarterback or a fullback that makes you fear them. I mean, the fullback was okay, but certainly none of the wing players or running backs. I mean, usually you see a good Navy team gash defenses and run up a lot of yardage. And Notre Dame was fortunate with if they started like that against some of the Navy teams we've seen over the last 10 or 15 years, that could have been a very troublesome game.
But that's probably their mindset, knowing this is a down team, knowing Navy does not have a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback that's going to get on the perimeter and could go 50 in a heartbeat. They did not. They didn't know that. I mean, they were like, hey, we're going to take away the fullback. We're going to, dominate inside, get some tackles for losses, swarm these guys, whatnot. Hey, there's one play real quick. Kudos to the offensive line where Navy runs like a 3-man twist game, pops the Will backer late, and Christophic and Alt just exchange these guys. Christophic just, boom, flatbacks the linebacker as he's coming in. So those guys were picking up some good twists and stuff like that. A little frustrating. Lug had 2 penalties today. Yeah. False start. He had the leg whip down the road there as well. So, a couple little corny ones. The Patterson penalty, he did not. I mean, that guy was a great actor. He goes over there, touches him, and the guy goes flying
Yeah.
in the sideline. Come on, that was not a shove by Jared Patterson by all means.
And like I said earlier, I'm actually okay with what Patterson did too. I mean, they were twisting Kyron Williams' ankle. You got to. I know what you
Exactly.
mean. It's a mutual respect game, but
Yeah.
in that moment, all you're seeing is an opponent twisting your buddy's ankle late like that, and you got to stick up for him a little bit too. So
But real quick on the last comment where you said the offensive line's a C plus. The one I mean they were running. Obviously, it's not a great Navy team, but I mean Notre Dame came out and were trying to throw the ball. I mean, look at it, you got 30 attempts, and that's with what three? I mean, they must have had 3 drives minimum of 3 and out, if not 4.
yeah,
So that's not a lot of plays overall for the game. So to throw 30 passes when you've gone 3 and out is a lot of passes. So they came out wanted to chuck that thing all over the place. But it's the run game, the patience that Diggs and Williams
yeah.
showed at times where they're double teaming, they're comboing. Once again, that left side was solid, solid. Those guys are just going to keep getting better and better. I saw Blake Fisher on the sideline celebrating a bunch. That was nice to see him like in the TV shot, which we haven't seen too much of him. So yeah, I know he's been at the game, but to see him in there, and obviously Coach Kelly even mentioned today that they're planning to get him to the bowl game, get him live reps in the bowl practices and during the game, prep him for 2022. So that's going to be great to see.
Yeah. Logan Diggs had 8 rushes for 59 yards in the touchdown. It's funny, and you mentioned his patience. He to
Patience.
me, he looks like he's like studying Kyron Williams. Didn't he look a little bit like Kyron? Just not with the juking, but just like his patience and willing to let things develop in front of him.
You know what? I mean, anyone can say what they want, but that's literally coaching.
Yeah.
That is coaching. Kelly's mentioned this about Lance Taylor developing that because he's telling, it is probably going back to the, I don't want to say the mistakes, but the coaching of this team. It's almost like they didn't know who they had until they got the Vautech going through spring because they lost so many guys, obviously, and
Right.
it's spring practice, fall practice, they're still developing. You get your games early on. It's frustrating. Guys are getting hurt, things of this nature. And now that they more so solidified a running style. And that running style is multiple double teams, let the backs find the holes instead of just, hey, we're going to run off tackle to the right, hit the C gap. They're not doing that. They're letting these backs dictate, find the holes, bounce it outside. Even on some of the Kyron Williams where he got no gain, 1 yard, 2 yards on a handful of runs that, look, frustrating and whatnot because he's bouncing so much. I thought Kyron Williams bounced probably too much. You got that 91-yarder stuck in his head forever. But there was a couple where he was bouncing around. But that is their scheme. That's the way they're coaching it, and especially coaching that offensive line. Stay on your guys until you have to release, and that's what they're doing.
So Tim, a couple more finals. TCU did beat Baylor 30-28. So that's the number 12 team, Baylor, with a loss. And then Auburn did fall to Texas A&M 20-3. Alabama down 7-0 early to LSU with about 6 minutes to go in the first as well.
Hey.
So the day is not done quite yet as far as impact on the college football playoff rankings.
Real quick, if Eddie Ogeron wins that game tonight, maybe they'll bring him back. That will be the upset of all upsets if Eddie O could do that tonight.
Well, try to get a couple more questions here. James Skeeter asks, why did Kelly keep running RPO with Cone? He can't run it. Makes me so mad to see that play.
Now the RPO is not zone read. Zone read is a zone read.
Yeah.
Where you're handing off and QBs keep it. The RPO, the true run pass option, which Cone has run outstanding in the last couple of games against SC and North Carolina when they've done him. I mean, Cone was. I mean, some of the numbers are just boom off the charts with the RPO. And the RPO, what he's doing, he's reading one guy. He's reading the outside backer or the corner, and he's and he's reading it to see what they're going to do on the run action. And then he's been zinging it out with the slants, the quick outs in the SC game were big time plays of just getting those things out there. Today, what they did was the RPO was hold it, and try and go deep.
Mhm.
And Navy was just like, no, we're gonna blitz you. And
Yeah.
Navy brought it today. They hit them off the edges, strong safeties, the corner blitz. That's what blew up the RPOs today.
D-Rock, that's what I'm saying. Logan Diggs, to me, I got confused a couple times. He's it's like he's literally studying Kyron Williams, and that's a good thing. Because he
Yeah,
just,
without it.
I mean, I don't know if his high school film necessarily made me think, oh, this is another guy like Kyron Williams.
Yeah,
And
his high school film was just boom, gone.
yeah,
He was just running all over the place. Not this patience, but I think that's the coaching. Coach Taylor obviously has that NFL mentality, his Stanford days. You talk about offensive line and run game. Obviously, Stanford, outside of this year, has been some of the premier run teams in the last 15 years.
mhm.
With Harbaugh and Shaw. So, he's bringing that mentality of just patience, patience, patience. Who was the Stanford guy, Bryce Love?
Yeah,
I mean, remember he would get the ball, sit back for 5
and
seconds, and then go.
and he had a little bit of a stiff arm too. Yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
absolutely. Tim, is there such thing as a good time for a road game after two night games for Notre Dame? And we talked a little bit earlier in the week about this being a potential kind of letdown feel, which I think it was early on. But you know, I think especially for Notre Dame, I know the kids deal with parents coming in and family and kind of distraction of the football weekend. You think this might be a good time to hit the road again?
Oh, it's going to be a great time. I mean, here you are, 8-1. People have been talking about Virginia out there in the, in the trees, so to speak, talking about this offense and they're going to upset Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame people are like, oh, you got to watch out for Virginia and whatnot. So it's a great time because I bet you $1. Not that I bet it's going to be it's probably going to be a night game. They're probably going to give UVA a night game, so to speak. Put it on ESPN next week since they had a bye. Give them some extra time, right, to prepare. Who doesn't get extra time to prepare for Notre Dame this year?
I know.
But yeah, it's going to be an awesome atmosphere because I think Notre Dame knows we go and we take care of business. Then we come back and it's senior day with Georgia Tech, and then we go out to the farm, which has been a nightmare for Coach Kelly. And let's go out there and finish this thing and get into a New Year's Six. Next week, Notre Dame better have this is our Super Bowl mentality. That needs to be the mindset right from the get go. We're going to go into Charlottesville and let's just go take care of these guys.
I'm just posting a couple questions here. The first one was from Nolan Sanchez about the slow start, and then an interesting point to consider from Eric Dukaki. Do you think they purposely had a vanilla scheme, to not put more on tape for teams going forward, knowing that you don't need much to beat Navy?
Yeah, I mean that they actually weren't too vanilla because going back to the RPO question the gentleman asked a couple minutes ago was that was actually a new scheme for them to do RPO, try and go up top, try and get some vertical shots on the RPOs instead of just the quick outs or the slants. So they did put that on tape. That's something they have not done this year. So that was new in that thing. But yeah, I mean, I do understand the question. Vanilla. Let's go out here. Let's just do our base stuff, do a couple things here and there. I mean, heck, we saw 3 tight ends today. We saw 13 personnel at one time. I wrote on my notes why. Spread them out and go.
Yeah.
With it, so they did 13, they did 12. They did more 12 today than they've done in the previous couple games.
Yeah.
So yeah, vanilla. I do understand that, and definitely get it. That's going back real quick, Greg, to what you and I were talking about early in the game was the tempo. It just felt like it was just going through the motions, very slow.
Yeah.
Going through the motions, not moving. With Buckner, they had a good flow and they go right down and score.
Yeah, I would have thought we've established, we being the Notre Dame overall world, both fans and the football program and whatnot, that when they go fast with Jack Cohn, he is better than when they go slow. And
but that's probably some of the frustration where they're like, Navy was just like, well, we're going to drop 8 every single time and not give you the perimeter, which goes back to what Notre Dame did a lot against UNC and Sam Howell. Yeah, I know people were frustrated with the 3-man front last week, but what they were doing was taking away the slants, those quick dig-ins off the RPOs that Sam Howell just, was all over the place with Wake Forest today. So, you give a little, take a little, and go from there.
Well, Tim, Notre Dame is 8-1 now on the year. 11-1 seems like more and more like it's much. I mean, it's likely. They'll have to step up and win a road game next week. Everyone, please hit like on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to thank everyone for tuning in. It's time to wrap this puppy up. And Tim, we'll see you later in the week, right? For some for some final thoughts. As we preview Virginia and Notre Dame.
Any update? Who got the game ball today?
I haven't. I haven't seen it. I can try to. Let me see if they usually tweet it out pretty fast. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, they do. I know they always get that out there. But just to wrap up, they handled business. It was a little boring, as we talked about. Defense dominated. They got over 31 points, which has been the key. And I think they're definitely going to get 31 against Virginia, the way they play defense. So, just as the coach in me, next week's got to be a Super Bowl. They got to play an emotional high because that is going to be a great atmosphere in Charlottesville. They're going to want to beat Notre Dame big time and pull off that upset. But are they going to have Armstrong? Are they going to have their lefty quarterback? Is he going to play with a broken rib?
Right.
What rib is it? The flak jacket, which is going to have, he's going to have more padding if he does play. So that's going to be very interesting to see how he comes along.
Yeah, there's nothing yet out there. Well, I mean, someone might have tweeted out who got the game ball, but the one or two, the Notre Dame Twitter account has yet to state who are the game ball. It's got to be Kurt Heinisch. I mean, last year.
But didn't he just get it a couple games ago?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Oh, I thought he did. I thought he got one of those. Was it Vodtek? I thought no, Vodtek didn't play, did he? I swear I thought he got one, but we'll see. If not, I mean, he dominated.
Yeah.
So he dominated.
That's my vote.
Yeah.
So
unless they give it to Austin, I don't know if he's gotten one.
139 yards receiving. I agree.
Nice 70-yard touchdown catch. That's always fun.
Thanks, guys. Well, I appreciate everyone tuning in. We're getting some nice compliments. John Peters, thank you. We'll do it all again after the Virginia game. And again, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the way to really follow what we're doing here at blueandgold.com. So everyone, have a good night and enjoy some college football.
You got it. Have a great one.